What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning back in to another episode of the NPU podcast. I'm your host, Jay Namfido. I'm joined here today by Core 4 owner Kevin Dean and strength and conditioning coach Andy Fredeen. Thank you guys for allowing me to come in today, guys. It's been a pleasure kind of growing up in this program here, Core 4 Strength and Conditioning here in Middletown, Connecticut. I trained with Coach Kevin Dean over here throughout high school. So being able to bring him on the pod, I was pretty excited for, and thanks for having us, guys.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Honor to have an old athlete. Jay's old now. Honor to have you ask me. Really was really cool.
Yeah, appreciate it. Just so you guys know, too, if you could get a little closer to my side.
Yeah, word. Okay.
Yeah. So, wanted to come in today and kind of highlight, Kevin Dean's story, where you came up, and highlight yours, Andy, how you came up in the fitness industry, talk a little bit about, what you guys have gone through as far as from a business perspective, giving my audience just a little bit more knowledge on the fitness industry, how to maybe get involved and get started. So, like I said, we obviously started, I started with you my junior year, I think, of high school. You came on board at Middletown High, and you're still there. So you're doing something right? So I thought that was pretty cool. 7 years later. But you did start, as, I remember you had a gym, was it inside your house at that point, or a small little space? Yeah, Fit for You, right?
Yeah, Fit for You. Fit for You was my dream after becoming a trainer at Wow Fitness.
Okay. So you're at Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so
I didn't know that.
A long time ago. Wow. So I got out of the military, and at 22, I got a job at Wow.
Yep.
And just working the desk. And sadly, I asked the owner if I could be a trainer, and he was like, "Here's a shirt," and that was it.
Oh, wow.
So that is, unfortunately, that's part of the issue with the industry.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was like, "Oh, cool! Like, it's that easy to become a trainer." It was like, "Here's a shirt."
Yeah.
Once I did it, and I was pretty good at sales. The first week, I think I did about $15,000 in sales.
Jeez.
Right. So anybody I got a consult with, boom, here are about 20 sessions or whatever.
So it was like, were you signing them up from there as like to work with you one-on-one, or
so it was all one-on-one training at the time. There was the whole semi-private and training programs, all that stuff. It was really just one-on-one training. There was only one option: you go to the gym, you get a trainer, you don't, right?
Yeah.
So then I said, well, I have all these clients,
right?
So I said I might as well start deep diving into this. And I went to NASM. I got a NASM certification. I got the NSA certified personal training certification, and then I got a different certification almost every year to try to really expand my knowledge as much as possible.
Right.
Knowing that this is something I really wanted to do, I wanted to make sure I was trying to be the best at it.
Yeah.
So even to this day, I still do certifications almost once a year.
So yeah, part of that process, like sticking with the certifications, right? Like, I know a couple of my friends, trainer here now, Alex Giardina, she had to go through that whole certification process. What's the difference like now, like from when you got it, right? When you started, what, like price wise, like what do you see like the difference now from getting all those certifications?
Well, because I've been doing this for 22 years now, I've gotten to see the game, like how training has evolved, right? Yep. Where it was, basically bigger people in the gym, guys who were were bodybuilders were the go-to people.
Right.
And then, exercise science becomes a degree. It's because we get a lot of people out there, but there really wasn't a lot of information that was given even with those people with degrees. So they're graduating school and they really don't really know.
Right.
So training went from lift heavy, lift a lot of reps, try to be a bodybuilder to evolved into functional training, which was, get away from that and stand on a Bosu ball and put it, it looked like a juggling act every workout. So we went away from that, which was all the balance stuff, the Bosu balls, the exercise balls, the stand on one foot, do some sort of human acrobatics type thing, to back to just lift heavy. You know? And I think that really a good trainer, and something I know with Andy, is that you take the old school work ethic, you provide the newest, smartest techniques. We've been around long enough where we know how to kind of navigate the industry and what's good and what's bad. get away from just the, what's popular on Instagram and the new best sexy looking exercise,
right,
to find out what's the most effective, efficient, safest, best way to train.
Okay.
And all these certifications over the years have been just about that. It was like, find what the best is and then put that into our program.
Yeah. So Andy, you like he said, you're more of that new school training, trainer. And what was it like coming, where'd you start in your fitness journey? What was the start of your journey here?
Yeah, so I started first, I did my senior capstone project in high school. I shadowed my strength and conditioning coach.
Oh, wow.
And something I always loved about being an athlete was the strength and conditioning side. I loved working out. My dad built me a nice little gym in our basement.
Sorry.
When I was in high school, I went to a facility like this where I worked with a strength and conditioning coach too, and I just fell in love with it. So then when it came to school and college, I was like, I think that's something I want to do, right? So I got my degree in exercise science, and while in school, I did different internships with strength and conditioning coaches. I worked at a gym. Same thing Kevin did. I worked the front desk at a gym. I was at a big commercial gym where I learned the sales and business side of things.
Yeah.
But that commercial gym industry just wasn't for me. I thought there was more out there than that. At the same time, I was a strength coach at Yale University, where I got to work with some elite athletes and see that end of it,
Yeah.
So in the same year, I was working with a 55-year-old woman and a athlete who is now playing in the NFL. So I got to see both sides of it. And then I found myself really diving into the athletic side of it. And speaking on like the certifications and all that things, science is always evolving.
Yeah.
And this isn't just a thing people do. It's not just a hobby. There's a science behind what we do. And one thing I've learned is to always dive into that, but question it. Is this the best we can do? Is this the best way to get this goal, whatever it may be, right? And so you might learn something, and that year, this made a lot of sense, but then you learn something new, and you're like, actually, what I used to do doesn't make as much sense anymore,
Right.
And like I've heard other strength coaches say this, that like if your programs aren't changing as you get more experience, then you're doing something wrong. Kevin said this before, that doing something the same time for 20 years in a row is not 20 years of experience.
Right.
So like
It's 1 year of experience repeated 20 times.
Exactly.
Repeated 20 times. Yeah.
And you see people like that. I've worked with people who they're like, this is how I've done it. This is how we used to do it when I was in high school or whatever.
Right.
And you're like, okay, well, how long ago was that?
Yeah.
What has changed? What new equipment, just for example, has come out?
Yeah.
Is that the safest way to do it? So yeah, things have changed, and they're always changing. And one thing that we take pride on is keeping up with that.
So if I can, and kind of step back into, my evolution as a trainer, once I went, I had these clients, I was doing the certifications, right? I became the training director for Wow Fitness in all 4 of their gyms in Central Connecticut. And it was like, hey, let's get other educated trainers on here. I was like, look what I'm doing. I was doing a significant amount of sales before I left. And I said, if I have more people like that on staff, but the big gym philosophy is just not that. The big gym philosophy is, can we have this assembly line of clients and trainers with no real quality training?
Yeah.
And we see it in most big gym environments where it's, it's just a numbers game for them. Mm-hmm. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a feelings guy. Like, I want to make sure that, when I came to Middletown High School, for example, I want to give you guys the best training you had.
Yeah. I think, that was, just the goal that you had. When you came to Middletown High, we were training a completely different way.
Yeah.
And you changed the program.
100%.
So.
Right. We huge 180 there. So I got away from the big gym environment. I opened my own personal training studio, which you had touched on earlier. Was Fit For You Personal Training. It was a small studio space, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Real cool, nice looking. And the exposed brick. It was very boutique-y. And it was very successful there. Had a lot of one-on-one clients, but as the industry evolved, as economy changed, people couldn't afford one-on-ones as much. So we started going to the semi-private program where, it's a lower price, you get more people in there at once, became more affordable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
On top of that, at that same time, I started, Coach Krupa brought me on with Middletown High, and now I started getting into training athletes and groups of athletes, and my space just didn't work. So, Fit For You was very, the name of it was all about personal training. Fit for you, the individual.
Yep.
I changed it to Core 4 Strength Conditioning because we my whole philosophy changed. It's the same company. It was the same original company. We just changed the name.
Just rebranded, yeah.
Right. So Core 4 was more about, Core 4 stands for what, why, how, and when, which is the basic answers, basic questions you have to answer for every single facet of exercise, whether it's what a program is, what an exercise is, what periodization looks like, all those little things. You have to be able to answer every single one of those questions properly. Right.
Yeah.
So this is, when we talk about social media and all that, here's all these crazy exercises we see all over social media all the time, right?
Right.
Well, why are they doing it? And you can ask them, you come to trainers all the time, like, why are you doing that type of workout? And they go, huh?
Yeah.
Because, and it's...
That's a big part of it is, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not because I'm trying to be a dick and be like, that's stupid. But sometimes I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
What is the benefit of doing that? And some people give you the answer and you're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And other times it's just like, you'll say, why are you doing that? And someone will be like, well, why not?
Yeah.
And then we can list all those reasons why not to do it. But
so you're coming from
a big part of it.
Are you coming from more so the workouts that they're doing or why they're posting it? In a sense.
No, those are two different things.
things.
We know why they're posting it. And that's something that we talk about a lot is what you see is what you're not always going to get.
Right.
That is a huge part of this industry. And, we've discussed how social media plays a role in this industry. It's good and bad. And
100%.
Unfortunately, there are people who can't navigate the good versus the bad.
Yeah. Well, there's also, navigating the good versus the bad, right? How has that affected your guys', sort of journey, using social media as a tool, as a marketing tool for you guys? Obviously we have the podcast now and I use social media as my tool to market this, right? Market my production company, market my, marketing company, MP University. How have you guys built that into Core 4?
Yeah, that's it's funny because that is a constant conversation we have.
Yeah.
It's a constant talk we're having is how do we engage social media better?
Yeah.
Right. There's so many hype videos out there. You make them, right?
Yep.
We've made them for ourselves.
Yeah.
We've had people make hype videos.
Right.
And they always show the snippets of the cool, fun exercise, right? And you look at, you go through social media, you're going to see somebody flipping tires, right? And then it's usually some, attractive model, some fitness person, they're over there flipping a tire. And then we have the dad come in and goes, how come my kid's not flipping tires?
Right.
Well, your 13-year-old can't stand up straight. So why,
Yeah.
let's crawl before we walk.
Yeah,
or let's,
exactly.
walk before we flip a tire.
Right.
And there is a progression that's not the fun, cool, sexy thing to advertise.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people say too that if the stuff that got results was posted, it would be the most boring post ever because it's the boring, simple stuff that people need to master, and they do master, that gets them their results.
Yeah.
Right? And then they go and they do the cool, fancy things. And sometimes I watch things and we were just saying this, it's extremely impressive. You're like, wow, that was impressive. But was it necessary? Absolutely not.
Right.
I mean, look at who's I don't even know the guy's name is. Who's the guy who's doing pull-ups with the assault bike attached to him? And he's doing a muscle up, and he's it gets tons of clicks, it gets tons of likes.
Oh yeah.
But is it cool? Absolutely.
Is the person who goes 6 days a week and he's in a 5x5 training program and he's lifting 315 this week and next week he's lifting 320. That's not impressive.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you see your Bradley Martins of the world, how they've built a career, but all the power to them.
Exactly. You're not knocking it.
Right.
I don't want to hate on someone's grind.
Yeah, that's people have built very successful careers, and Bradley Martin actually is a role model of mine as far as where I've come in the fitness industry. But lifting the videos, lifting the girls up, it's not needed to build a brand, but it does get the clicks, it does get the interaction.
Wasn't it Bradley Martin who's doing the thing with the bench press of the girls?
And then
the bar came down and smacked him in the face,
and he's
face
literally split open, bleeding all over the place.
Yeah.
But then it's okay, so you measure it from there, right?
Yeah.
What was that video's purpose? Just for clicks, and dude ended up going to the hospital again, stitches,
I totally get it. There's stuff out there that does bring attention to it, and unfortunately, what we pride ourselves on is our knowledge. We're experts of the industry, especially when it comes to getting results. And like I said before, the stuff that gets our clients results isn't the stuff that is going to be thrown around where people are sending it to each other yo, look what this kid did. It's we're mastering the basics, and the basics work. You know?
100%.
Yeah, the social media and even like the perception of what strength and conditioning is, like Andy's talked about, we talk about, it's a science, right? There's a science behind it. It's not what the perception of the outside world thinks it is, right? I don't know, I can't tell you how many times I've had a baseball team in here and a dad's coming in and be like, well, how come my kid's not doing wind sprints? I'm like, because your kid plays right field. He's luckily if he sprints 6 times in a whole game. So I don't, so if I have to prioritize his training, I'm going to make this kid a rotational monster. I'm going to make him lift heavy, create a ton of power, be able to sprint in a straight line. You know, you guys got these baseball players doing like ladder drills back and forth. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen a baseball get hit. It goes in a straight line. It doesn't like take a left turn anywhere.
Well, I used to play ball, and I mean, I wish we had your training back in the day. Like, you've really, I'd say, worked with Middletown High's programs, and what you've done is very impressive. Like, you know, all the kudos to you, man. Like, you've been grinding, and I've been seeing it since I was in high school. So to watch your program progress has been awesome. I wanted to highlight some of that, though. Like, so talk a little bit about what types of training. Obviously, we're here in Core 4 here in Middletown. You know, obviously you're also a trainer at Middletown High School. What's that been like for you, navigating both owning your own business, but also being a trainer at a high school? Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough, right? Because they both demand a lot of time. You know, owning a business demands X amount of time.
100%.
Right? You know, you're getting into it now. You know, as an entrepreneur, you're constantly trying to make your business grow. Thank God I have Andy here, right? Really, I mean, it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Because finding good help is super, super hard. Right?
Yeah.
And especially
100%.
in this industry where we go back to perception, right? Perception is, oh yeah, I can be a trainer. That's a piece of cake. Like, all right, you ready to work 5 to 9? Because it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's a 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. job.
Yep.
You know, and it gets tough, and hours are hard, and you know, now it's marketing, and now you're working within this oversaturated industry of tons of trainers and tons of social media. So as an owner, it's tough. Then you start with the training of the people, and you know, they still want to see you on the floor training people. It gets hard. You know? And then I got to go right from here from 5:30 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. I go right to the high school from 2 to like 7 at night.
Yeah.
And I love it, and I love every minute of it. You know, throwing a couple kids in there, and you know, it makes the schedule tough. But at no point do I not love what I do. I mean, I'm passionate about it. I enjoy it every day.
Yeah.
I don't get up and go, oh man, I don't want to go to work. Like, I really do love it.
Yeah, 100%.
So now, you know, being in the high school, it's been awesome. I went from just working with the football team to this year they hired me to work with all varsity athletes. So you're talking, you know, another 380 athletes that, you know, I see weekly.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's that's a huge accomplishment. And, I see where some of your goals align with some of my goals, you know, like just building, putting the right people in the place. Like, I talked about that in my last podcast. You're building a culture here. And I think speaks to the programs itself, and people like Andy that you bring on, like, they want to be a part of that culture, right? Like, what was it like for you, Andy, coming on to Core 4, and when you started, like, where are you at now as opposed to where you started here?
So, you know, there were a lot of things that clicked with me and Kevin when I first came on. You know, I liked his approach, especially like he said, Core 4, what it stands for, the what, why, how, and when. Like, I was like, yes, someone who gets it, right? Someone who I agree with, who we're not just sitting here saying, you know, random things about fitness, like, oh, like, but having an education behind it and understanding the reasoning behind it. So that's like what brought me to like want to be here and want to work here. The other side of it was working with athletes. That was like my passion and my background was I went to school for strength and conditioning and primarily worked with athletes. And so I've always thought that there is a difference between personal training and strength and conditioning. And like, I can't define what that difference is, but like in the industry, there's definitely, you know, I mean, like,
you're a really good like personal trainer and like one-on-one with our general population. You can see Andy go from, and he does a great job with our general pop people. When athletes are there, it's like a switch gets clicked and he becomes a strength conditioning coach. So you go from like a coach to you're a real strength conditioning coach, ready to work with athletes, ready to get fired up, giving them the best, you know, to become their best, you know. And Andy does a great job at that.
And one of the things too that I loved about this place, apart from the athletes, was the general pop people I was working with.
Yeah.
It was fun. We do have such a good time here. So like when that, I go from this strength and conditioning coach where I'm almost like a drill sergeant, so then I'm just goofy old Andy, like goofing around with these people and having a blast, and that's one of the things I really enjoy about this place.
And he's also a phenomenal dancer. So he dances through the whole.
And you're building those real relationships, right? It's relationship building, a part of the culture. People buy in as a client to the culture that you produce, what you're doing, right? And I think that just speaks to your program in general. It's, I think since day one, Coach Dean, like, when you came into Middletown High, I knew you were a business, and I knew it wasn't like gonna be easy, and there was many days where, I'm not gonna lie, I hated this man, but all in farewell, like he worked me to a point that I reached a different potential, right? I was a college athlete, played D3 ball. When I was there, a lot of your training was what I was learning, what I was practicing at college. We were doing almost every single exercise that you taught us at a D3 level. And I'm trying to teach guys like my little brother right now who, want to maybe slack off, or certain people that want to slip, not that Ant slacks off by any means, but I'm saying just younger kids in general that don't really want to put in the time. When you get to college, if you want to play college ball, it's going to be a wake-up call when you get there, right? Yeah. And I'm trying to stress that to my group of athletes. I work with 10 athletes right now on their marketing and digital branding, and I'm trying to make the point of emphasis. I'm no strength and conditioning coach, but you guys are. And the importance of seeing someone like you guys and being able to train with you makes that difference. So,
my philosophy, and I tell every single athlete this, with whether it's football, whether it's baseball, that your body tells the truth.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Game one, your body's going to tell the truth. It's either I prepared or I didn't.
Right.
Yeah. And it's really apparent. And especially like in football, the fourth quarter, right?
Yep.
Our team, especially that first year, those first couple of years that we were in the regular season, 27-3, the first 3 years I was there.
Yep.
In the fourth quarter, you would see other teams already defeated, and our team ready to go. Fourth quarter, boom. And that's the conditioning part of it. But we were also stronger.
Yep.
We were faster, and like I can sit back and look back and say, once you guys get between the lines, my job's over, right? That's the other coach's part. But as long as those things we're pushing people around, we're faster, and then in the fourth quarter, we're just stepping on the gas and going full speed, I've done my job.
Right.
And our program tells the truth. Our guys are ready,
Yeah, 100%. Who was someone like, both of you guys, when you were coming up in the industry, who was someone that you looked up to that really kind of helped you get kickstarted? Was there a mentor in your guys' lives that helped you get started?
Yeah, so for me, it's funny because I was doing all this, training, doing all these certifications, and I was going around doing cadaver labs. I mean, really, really deep dive into it. But I met this guy, Chris Flores, out of New Jersey. A really wacky story. He met a girl that I knew that she was like, I know that guy, and he meets me. So now, next thing you know, he's like, dude, you got to go to these conferences. You really got to get involved. And I go to this Perform Better conference, and I'm like, oh my God, it was like my first eye-opening. I'd been doing this for about 5 years and being like, wow, this is a legit thing now. This is what all these, there's other coaches out there that are really passionate about this. And guys like Martin Rooney and Todd Durkin, who are, world-renowned motivational speakers and trainers. Todd's worked with every NFL athlete out there. And Martin's just goes around the country, and when this guy speaks, you just want to run through a wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he just sets your hair on fire. And then there's all these other guys, those are the motivational guys. And then somebody like Eric Cressy. Eric Cressy is the baseball guy, right?
Yeah.
He is one of the smartest people I've ever seen. And when you go to his seminars, he's like, I'm not going to dumb it down for you. You need to step up your game.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, really like learning his program, his shoulder program for overhead athletes was really when I deep dive into the biomechanics of things.
Yeah.
So Eric Cressy, now he's like the head for athletic development for the Yankees. So he works with like Lori Cooper and Max Scherzer. Like, those are his clients.
Max Scherzer,
you know what I mean? Like, those are dudes.
Big name clients.
Those are dudes for Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So those are the guys that I really look up to.
That's awesome.
For me, it started when I was at Yale. Coach Tom Newman, he was the strength and conditioning coach there, like the head guy. And he was just watching his brain work. Like when he would speak to us and teach us things, you could see the gears turning in his head and like explaining all of this science that like, it's crazy. I have my degree in exercise science. I think I learned more from him than I did in school. You know,
Wow.
I learned a lot in school and I'm so grateful for my education, but in terms of like how to apply it to the weight room, I learned so much from him. And like, you know, we had these Ivy League guys who are now playing in the NFL, and I saw his transition of how Yale went from, I believe they went 2-7 to then he comes on board and they win the Ivy League, right?
Yeah.
And you know, and that was just something to see what he was doing in the weight room, where these different programs he was running, seeing kids put on 30 pounds of muscle and just turn into these athletic freaks. I really learned a lot from him, and that he really instilled that work ethic for me, and like that this works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, so he's definitely a huge mentor of mine. And then another one would be Zach DeCant out of TCU. He's their baseball strength and conditioning guy, and I just love his philosophy and approach towards things. He's written a few books that I've read, and like for me, what it was is I asked him once, what is something that high school strength and conditioning coaches can do better, right? So that these kids who come to the next level are in a better position. And he said, teach them how to move, right? You get a lot of high school strength and conditioning coaches who are just trying to create these athletic freaks before they're ready, right? So then they go to these college weight rooms and the kid's like, yeah, I can squat 315 or 405, but they're doing a quarter squat.
About 3 inches down.
Yeah, you know, and it's just like, no, you can put 405 on your back and not collapse, right? So then the college strength coach has to erase all these bad habits that were created and teach them how to move properly now, right? So those are things that I've learned from two great people that I look up to, and I'm like, yeah, like they, especially at that college level, that was like my first passion, was to be a college strength and conditioning coach. But then I thought, well, I want to help kids get to that level, you know? So those are two names that really pop into my head.
It's awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that in my own journey, like just someone I look up to in the fitness industry is obviously you, Coach Dean, like, you know, everything that you taught me in high school, and then moving forward, you know, Jeff out of CPC in Springfield, you guys really taught me how to move differently. And like, I was stubborn when it came to lifting, because I was that guy that was trying to push 405. And don't get me wrong, I'd get it up, but then we'd come to, you know, I was in spring training and I was dealing with hammy issues, dealing with soft tissue issues, like, and I think that was the problem, was that I was so caught up in that whole, okay, I got to push as much weight as I can, but it wasn't like, I think until you taught me how to push that weight, right?
Yeah.
How fast can you push 405? It doesn't matter how much you do, right? And I think that speaks to some of the injuries that we do see nowadays. Like, and that's something that I did want to kind of highlight was, you know, the way you do train differently does translate when you get to your on-field plays.
Yeah. You know, one of the huge things we focus on here, which I think most, you know, private facilities like us do, is injury prevention.
Yeah.
Right? All the stuff we do does not matter if you're not playing.
Yeah.
Right? So like, and what is one of the best ways to prevent injuries? Get stronger. One of the biggest things I see with high school and youth athletes is they're all weak, right? And so we teach them how to move, and then we get them stronger, and next thing you know, like, instead of pushing just 150 pounds, they're pushing 300, you know? And 300 might not be 400, but pushing 300 well is
still a lot of weight.
that sloppy 400, where now next thing you know, you're on the field and you're having those hammy issues, you know?
We have a girl, we started training her from Berlin. She was 8th grade, and she was squatting like 225.
Yes.
And what happened? She started freshman basketball and freshman soccer and dominated.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, all of a sudden here's this freshman running around the soccer field, cannot be pushed around.
Yeah.
You know, and explosive and fast. You see her running here. She's stronger than most of our freshman football players.
Yeah.
She's probably I would say she's probably stronger than most freshman, sophomore football players.
Yeah.
That's
You
awesome.
should. It was funny to see her in here one time doing her cleans, doing just as much as the guys.
Yeah, man,
if not more than some of them. You know, and like doing it well.
Yeah, and then that also translates to, like, she's probably going to be someone who's getting recruited, you know, further in her career. Like, it translates to the field and her level of play. Like you said, you know, starting as a freshman, that's awesome, you know. And I kind of wanted to highlight those types of things, so I thought that was cool. And another one of the things that I like to ask, you know, on the pod, like, this is only my second episode, but so
One of those things I'd like to ask again.
is, I really like to look at all of my guests, what their future goals are, right? Like what their 5-year goals, 10-year goals are. So when I start with you, Coach Dean, like, where you were obviously 7 years ago right now is completely different. You didn't even have the space 7 years ago. So
facility now, it's interesting because my goals 3 years ago were totally different now, right?
Yeah.
Because now I have a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old.
Yeah.
So I love.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. They're awesome. They mean everything to me, and I love the grind. I really do, and I don't mind getting up at 4 a.m. and work until 7 p.m. But it's a little different now, right? Like,
right.
I get home at 7 p.m. It's like, oh man, what did I miss with these kids? So my goal is to keep grinding, keep killing it, keep growing the business, but grow the business to the point where I can step back a little bit and enjoy the family life. Because when I was thinking about it, when these kids get to be, she's 3 years old, she's already started soccer.
Right.
So it's like, that's going to be part of life. You see these sports parents, how many things did you drag your parents around to,
So many.
So
many.
It's so I want to get dragged around to those things. I want to be a sports parent, but I don't want to step away from this completely, but I need to be able to
be a father, be a dad. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a hard balance, and as an entrepreneur, you're going to find. That's the hardest. That's going to be always the hardest thing. When my business was always successful, my personal life might have suffered a little bit. Yeah. Right? When my personal life is great, business has suffered a little bit. How do you find that balance?
Right.
When you figure it out, it's the $1 billion question. I mean, you'll make $1 billion, really, because you're going to be like the Tony Robbins out there. This is what we do, and this is how, we're all this, and, and he's so emphatic, and he's so like, you can run through walls, and you can climb mountains, and you could be a billionaire, and you could do all this. Oh, okay, well, when you have the magic potion that says, hey, this is the exact balance of what you need to do, you'll reach the top. I just haven't figured it out yet,
and that's
and I'm still working at it.
Part of the journey, right?
Absolutely.
Like, and obviously you're still young too, so don't sell yourself short. So
wait till you hit 40, pal. You wake up, things are going.
Couple years. I already got the aches and pains, so I don't want to get that old yet. But
no, you wake up with pains that you didn't go to bed with. Like, I sprained my ankle, my sleeve. Like, what happened? So.
It's just a part of getting old, that's all. But it's cool though. But what about you? 5 to 10 years, what are your goals as a strength and conditioning coach, but also life goals too?
As a strength and conditioning coach, one of my goals has always been to be able to help people that are like me and want to have a career in this. So I really love the educational side of it, and I would love to be able to educate and help young trainers, young coaches who want to succeed in this field. I want to be in that position where people want to come to me and be like, hey, that's the guy to go learn from. Like Cressy was to us, going and listening to him. And, I want to have that kind of, I guess, reputation where people want to hear what I have to say, you know, and not because, it's the cool thing to do, but because I want to help these people succeed, I had that. I want to be able to give that back, so that's one of my biggest goals. And then, I just want to see this place grow, like we've always said, we want this to be the place for athletes. Athletes know, if I want to succeed, I got to go see these guys. And that's just my goal for this place, is to just see this place continue to grow. And, from being on just that side of the facility now to this side, see where else we can go with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we go back, you didn't know me then, but it was a 900 square feet space that we started in.
Yeah.
And I had like 3 racks in there and like a little bit of turf and 15 offensive linemen, and they're all like on top of each other working out.
I remember those days.
It was great. And it was fun, and it's a start to the journey. But we got a ways to go.
Yeah.
But like Andy said, helping people out. I think if you don't have that natural want and desire to help others succeed, this isn't the industry for you. Go do something else, because there's a lot of this that has to be selfless. It's a lot of it that is you giving your time to other people. You may not even get a thank you.
Right.
But if you watch them succeed, that's all the thank you need. You're like, man, I was a part of that. I was a
100%.
part of that. And that's my favorite thing about this job.
Yeah. I'm finding that in my own profession now. It's like, you can't please everybody, but you could do everything you can to try, right? Like my mission statement is simple. It's to help other people. Right? That's it. That's the core of my business. I do that with my production company, providing more edgy videos with the 4K footage and all those nice edits and all that. But I also provide a marketing platform for athletes. So I've grown that now to 10 athletes, and some of them train here. We got a couple of those guys that are training here, and that's, like I said, and girl. We have Kaya Skeen, who's in here. She's grinding to, play college ball and stuff like that. So, I'm trying to build the culture off of those principles of helping other people. And my programs with MP University, when I'm teaching my athletes right now, is it's bigger than you, right? It's always bigger than us. And I think you guys can speak to that as trainers, And,
Absolutely.
With my own profession, I'm seeing now that I'm starting this network, all of these kids coming together, and it doesn't matter what sport you're in. You could be a football player, you could be a soccer girl, or, whatever. They all come together and they share each other's content. I'm getting so much organic engagement on social media for them now, just by them sharing it within our circle, right? Yeah. Built that up to 10 athletes. I'm sure you guys can attest to that here. I don't really know how many you guys train, but I'm sure, other people in the program are now promoting that to other athletes. So how is that in the past couple of years? How have you seen the growth of your athletes, come from within the program? Have you gotten an influx of athletes over the past couple of years as you've been growing?
Yeah, we have and we haven't, and part of it was navigating COVID and then post-COVID, and then where athletes go, and again, I think that there are a lot of factors there that create issues within this industry. Mm-hmm. Some of it is the popularity contest, right? Like, I know I've been around AAU sports quite a bit for like the last 6-7 years. Yeah, and watching like who sells who to go where to train is a big deal. And again, it goes back to, somebody's philosophy on what works, even if it doesn't, Right. I can give you a direct example of that, right? I had a coach who was like, we grind here in this program. We do this, we do that. I'm like, why? You played Major League Baseball. Did you ever do any of that for a baseball player? As a baseball player growing up? No. Why do you have him doing it now? I don't know. Train here. But because he's a popular guy, like, kids will follow, Right. Yeah. Or because, somebody else somewhere had a cup of coffee in the NFL, they're like, oh, you got to train there because that guy who played in the NFL for 2 seconds is now a strength conditioning coach, Yeah. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I know certain guys, I see like what they're doing over diligence, awesome stuff. Yeah, right? 100%. I see guys who like down Dr. Heenan, right? The guy's awesome, right? There are some really, really good trainers out there, but then there's some of the guys who just come out of the NFL and just berate kids. And they're like, you never going to make it here. Run this hill 800 times until you puke. And you're like, why are you doing that? Like,
what are you doing it for?
What is this? Why are you a strength conditioner? Do you understand anything why you're doing this? And, it's like, well, I was in the NFL. You weren't. Like, oh, all right, cool, man. Like,
did you run 800 hills?
Did you do this in the NFL? No. Oh, so you're going to make
so what are you making
a 15-year-old kid develop imbalances and probably mental issues too. Yeah. There's those things in this industry that are tough. There's some really great guys out there, but there's some really people who are just use their popularity or their status as an ex-pro athlete to be like, you need to train here, and then they're like, what do you do? Well, we're gonna do jumping jacks with a battle rope today. Like, did you do that as a baseball player? No. Okay. Well, why are you making your 13-year-old kid who can't stand up straight do it?
Right.
Some really awesome people out there, and there's some not so awesome people. Right. And I think to get the hardest part is getting your athletes to really navigate that.
Yeah. And I think a part of it too is the mentality. You have to adapt the science to the mentality, right? Like, and obviously how you train now is even different, I'd say, than probably when I was training with you in high school. Like, you got to adapt to that. What have you seen as far as like the industry goes? What are the differences now that you face with training athletes as opposed to 10 years ago? Is there a difference in the science that you're seeing now?
I don't know if it's a science as much as the mentality.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that I know where the mentality was when I was 10 years old. Yeah. And then I go to like a Little League game the other day and I'm like, what is happening here? Yeah. Like what's going on with the kids? And it's and I don't know if it's that coach or if it's the league or what, but it is the mentality has just changed and changed and changed. And even the mentality from when you guys were there to 6 years later, and I don't know, maybe it's COVID, right? A lot of people blame it on COVID, and these kids who had missed 2 years of school and didn't develop certain things, and they were given everything, and now it's like, dude, you got to put in the work.
Right.
Like, there is no you're not going to just be a great athlete.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you want to.
You put the jersey on.
Right.
You know.
And post the pictures.
Who's the pain is temporary? Who's that guy? Who's the famous motivational speaker? Pain is temporary, you know.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
He was like a Marine, I think, or something like that. No.
God, I can't think of his name right now. I don't know. But anyway, he said the other day, don't be upset with the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do.
Yeah.
That's
It's like
You know what I
the
mean?
most honest thing there is.
It
you know?
is, and that's what I tell them all the truth. Your body's telling the truth. Like, it don't matter. You know, you didn't come to spring training, you didn't come to summer training, but you showed up August 18th ready to play football. Nah, you probably didn't.
Yeah.
You probably didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, I bench press 315 and I squat 405. And like Andy said, yeah, do you really?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they get on the field and they're gassed. It doesn't matter if you can squat 400 pounds if you can't run 20 yards. Twice in a row without dying. You ain't ready to play football.
Well, one of the big things I've seen, and I've been around different cultures. I went to a high school where losing was not an option. You know, like we, in 4 years, lost 4 games. You know, like we went undefeated and won a state championship. And that was just the culture in my town. Then I went to a school where that wasn't as big of a thing, right? You know, where winning wasn't a regular thing. And that changed how I looked at things. And then nowadays I see athletes who, they want to be an athlete just to call themselves an athlete. Right? And like, you know, there are kids who want to be on the team and be included and be a part of something. That's great. But there are some kids who make this claim of wanting to be that successful athlete without wanting to do what it takes to get there. You know, and I think we are lucky that we have a lot of athletes that completely understand what it takes. They show up and they get their results. You know?
Yeah, how many times you see on social media, it's grind season, baby. No, it's grind season right now. Like,
it's grind season.
It's
all
grind
the time.
season. You know, it's grind season. You want to be an athlete, it's grind season all the time.
All the time.
All the time. Yeah.
You know, you can't put up the one picture of you doing something in the gym. You got to be doing it
Every single day.
If you want to be a successful athlete, you got to live a successful athlete life.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's,
I'm trying to teach that right now to my group of athletes, and especially to my younger brother, who's obviously coming up in the golf industry, and he's killing it right now. But you've talked to me even about how he can train a little bit differently to improve his results, and like trying to stress that to him as he goes into college, because they're gonna do that when he's at college. And that was the same thing that I went through when I got to college. We trained even different than we trained in high school. Like it was every day, and it wasn't like, oh, we get a day off. Like, no, our days off were stretching or 6 a.m. yoga, or we were doing hot yoga just to, you know, keep our bodies loose and train differently. So that's where I really understood once I got there. And that's what I'm trying to have my audience understand, is just that difference in training, and bringing on, you know, next level trainers like you guys are to get that message out there. Because I feel like you said, we live in a world of social media, and you really don't know what's going on behind those pictures and videos that people are posting, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's, it's just been something that I've kind of embodied as I've grown with my business, grown with athletic training and all that. Obviously, I don't train as hard as I used to. I had a fair share of injuries, so it's you know, and you've had your own injuries too, right? Through the come up and stuff. So
scratched a couple snowboards, a motorcycle. Yeah, it's been it's tough.
But it's all a part of the journey, right? Like, you wouldn't get there without those peaks and ains. And I'm sure from an entrepreneurial mindset, you understand that as well. You know, and every day is different, and that's the same thing for my business. So, you know, I'm seeing that firsthand now. But like, I just wanted to bring you guys on. You know, again, thank you guys for having us here today.
Awesome.
Core Forum Middletown, and you know, if you guys want, I always leave room for my guests to shout out anybody that they're thankful for in their lives and who helped you. Obviously, we talked about who helped you kind of get here, but you know, if you want to just give a shout out to someone special that has helped you get to the point you are in your life, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the cliched one, like, thanks, Mom. Like, but like my mother, my father, and my stepfather, I mean, like all these racks are put together by all the platforms are custom made by my father and my stepfather.
That's awesome.
Right? Like all the platforms, anytime I need something, they're like, yeah, we'll be right there. We'll go do it. Right? There's a slam wall that me and my stepfather built on the other side. Like, just put it together. He's just like, just come up with a plan. And it's been that way since I started as an entrepreneur. My father helped me build the first studio. We built the whole thing out ourselves. To the point where, like, I think we're throwing wrenches at each other at like 3 a.m, like 2 days before I opened. And then my mother's been, she's just absolute godsend. She's just, she helps me with everything, whether it's finances, whether it's a talk, whether it's calming me down. Because as an entrepreneur, you're going to get, a little nuts. And then over the last few years, my future wife and what she's provided with me, with the kids, and I mean, she knows when I'm having a tough day.
Yeah.
And she knows when to leave me alone, and just like, all right, I come home and I'm like zoned out, and I'm like, this has been a tough day. She's cool. She'll sit next to me and just be like, go play Call of Duty or something. Just do whatever you got to do to like just zone out for like an hour and like disconnect and she's been a great support system. I mean, I think I need. And then the kids, like, her kids and my kids and our kids together, and they give you a different level of purpose, no doubt. And grateful for it all. Grateful for everybody. Grateful for the guys that got here. Grateful for Andy. I've had him here for a long time.
Yes, sir.
Grateful for our new team. We were just talking about how awesome our team is that we've just created. We got Vance, Alex, Charlize, and our clients. Our clients are they're just rock stars.
It's awesome.
Yeah, well, I don't mean to copy him, but like I'm pretty much going to say the same exact thing. I'll start with my parents.
You're welcome.
I'm going to start with my parents. Like they have supported me through everything that I've been through, and they're always there for me when I need them. Like he said, whether it's just a talk or whatever it may be, they've always got my back, and I cannot thank them enough for the life that they've provided me, and in showing me that hard work pays off. They worked their asses off to get where they are now, and it provided me with the life that I've been blessed to have.
Yeah.
So I can't thank them enough for that. And then I'm also gonna say my girlfriend for always supporting me. Same thing Kevin said. She knows, like, there are mornings where I don't see her and from 4 a.m. all the way until 8 p.m. And to be there for me when I get home, and we always have each other's back and like support each other and lift each other up when we're feeling down. I wouldn't be here without her.
Awesome,
and then
man.
I'll thank the big guy right here, for giving me a place that I can call home. A place that I want to be, where I want to work and feel good about what I do. I can't thank him enough for that. And then I would also say our clients, like, for trusting me. I can't thank them enough for, like, especially the parents of the athletes, to be like, I trust you to help my kid, and like to believe in me and to like buy into this process. I can't thank them enough for that.
And one more I got to thank too is Middletown football too. For like really giving me the opportunity to get involved with the kids as much as I have. Coach Morello, Coach Rozek, especially Coach Rozek now, because he got me the job working with all the athletes.
Yeah.
And then you remember Coach Krupa?
Oh, yeah.
There you go, Coach Krupa, right?
Can't forget Coach Krupa,
Coach Krupa,
man.
right? Coach Krupa's been one of my very close friends. I don't know if you know him for like 20 years.
Yeah.
He was one of the first people
That's
I
awesome.
met at Wow Fitness when I was working there. And, and right? He's here all the time.
Yeah.
He works out here every day. Right? So
He's a savage, man.
he's a monster.
He's a
right?
savage.
Something different.
He's like almost, 60 or something?
He'll be 61 this year.
61, and he's
Yeah.
freaking looks like he's 30.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but you can ask Andy. The guy is just full of wisdom.
Yeah.
And you really think about the people you thank in your life, and I'm like, man, this dude. I can't tell you how many times I've either been down or up or sideways or something, and I'm like, Croup, like, lay it on me, man. I got to talk to you about something real quick. And the dude will sit there and listen and be like, how about we think about this in a different way? And I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
He got me. And I thank those guys, and Croup was really the one who got me involved with Coach Morello at first when when I first met you guys, and then the ball rolled from there. So
That's dope,
thank
man.
that guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I shouted out my family last time on the last pod, but number one supporter in my life right now is my girlfriend. She wouldn't be here without her. And, she's really propelled me, helped me navigate business, right? She's a college admissions counselor. So being grammar specific with me, well, it's not the best. She knows. And, shout out to Megan, man. You've helped me navigate this business and helped me through all the hard days. So I couldn't do this without you. And shout out to all my athletes, man, all 10 of you guys and girl. You guys kill it every day. You guys are working your ass off, and I appreciate you for trusting me as your media coach. NPU, like I said, we're building a culture over here, and it's very similar to what I see you guys are building here at Core 4. And I'm looking forward to what's to come with us, and
absolutely.
I'd love to keep this moving. Like I've said it to Terrell on the last podcast. It's a train we're on now that it's putting the right people on the bus, right, and building off that good culture that your foundations are built on, and moving that forward with your business, with your life, and just keeping that ball rolling, man. I'm thankful for you guys for having me here today. So, yeah. Well, that was a good combo, guys, man. I appreciate the second episode of the NPU podcast. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.